Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie vlog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today we've got some more movies that are coming to video on demand early because of everything going on with the crazy beer bug. We also have some updates on the fact that Congress, or at least the Senate, has finally passed a bill that was being fought for and was being delayed because of Democrats at this point. But it has been passed by the Senate, is going on to the House. Who knows what's going to happen there? I believe the leader of the House, the Speaker of the House, has indicated that she is willing to pass it pretty quickly. But will they be able to do that? Hopefully they will, because obviously there's a lot of people out there that are hurting, especially people in the film industry. And it's been very hard to talk about the film industry when everything has essentially shut down. So basically, I'm just left with waiting for movies to get released early on digital for us to get that kind of announcement, because otherwise there's really not a whole lot for me to be able to talk about during this crazy, crazy time. But another major release from Disney that was a huge financial box office flop even before the beer bug came out, called The Wild, is getting an early release, and it's going to be releasing sometime tomorrow based on the early readings of this article. And also a film that I had never even heard of before or seen any trailers for, called Downhill, which I believe is also owned and distributed by Disney's main company, also set to get a release there as well. So as you can see, 20th Century Studios' called The Wild and Searchlight Pictures' Downhill will be made available on digital beginning Friday in the U.S., Disney said. So as you can see, Disney has made those announcements. Both films had hit theaters in February, just ahead of the beer bug. Outbreak, and like other studio feature films, will now get shortened theatrical to home windows, as most cinemas are shut down during the pandemic. Most exhibitors worldwide look to be shut down for the next 2 months. Yes, next 2 months. We expect most theaters to be shut down. Now, China apparently is releasing information that they are putting out actually showings of the Avengers and other movies like that. I don't believe a damn word that China says, because even if their theaters are reopening, I don't believe that it is really safe in that country because of just all the craziness going on over there. So that's not really a good indicator. As soon as countries like South Korea, which I trust a lot more than China, which was definitely heavily hit by it as well and had a very robust reaction to it initially, once they start to reopen industries and movie theaters, that's when I'll feel like, okay, so maybe we're starting to get the things going again. But as of right now, everything is essentially hauled. Everything is rather essentially stalled for the next several weeks at the very least, which is going to be major financial losses for these studios, but also major financial losses for the theater companies, major theater chains like AMC, Regal, Cinemark, etc. So Disney took its Pixar film Onward, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, and Frozen 2 out early, while Universal has done the same for their in-release fare, including The Invisible Man, The Hunt, and Focus Features Emma, Paramount with Sonic the Hedgehog, and Warner Brothers with Birds of Prey and The Way Back. Lionsgate and Kingdom Story Company's faith-based I Still Believe will be available in home starting Friday as well. The theatrical to home windows is usually 90 days, and titles that don't obey that timeline usually aren't booked by the nationwide circuits like AMC, Cinemark, and Regal, who are now shut down. The Call of the Wild CG live-action movie that stars Harrison Ford and his dog Buck opened February 21st at $24.8 million and grossed $107.6 million. It will be available digitally and on Movies Anywhere beginning tomorrow for $14.99, and that sounds like a purchase to me, and that's actually pretty low. I can't really say I'm that surprised, because it really wasn't bringing a whole lot of people in, and you kind of need to have a enticing price to be able to offer people. $15, that sounds a little bit more realistic, but I don't think it's going to be able to help them make their money back, because they were well over $100 million in the red on that movie in the box office. But getting into the bill that was recently passed, so Deadline.com has broken down how it's going to impact the movie industry, because as again I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, it's really hard to cover a lot of this news because there really isn't a whole lot of industry stuff going on. Movie productions have shut down. Movie releases have been stopped, stalled, postponed, or have been going directly to video on demand services, of which I know a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on, as I've been reading in the comments section. But as you can see here, the text of the massive $2 trillion beer bug relief package has just been released in advance of expected Senate passage on Wednesday, and the update to that is that it has indeed passed to this point. It contains a number of provisions designed to help the entertainment workforce, including workers with no traditional employer, but who work as contractors and freelancers. The legislation expands the reach of unemployment benefits to include those impacted by the beer bug shutdown, and adds an additional $600 per week in unemployment benefits. The legislation got some initial praise for some of the areas of the industry hit the hardest, including theatrical performers whose productions have been shuttered and theater owners who have been shut down as well. Let me see if I can get to where it gets to the larger companies. All right, so the bill includes $500 billion for distressed industries with loans and loan guarantees. Inspector General and Oversight Board will monitor the disbursement, and companies that take the funds are prohibited from doing stock buybacks during the time the loan is outstanding. NATO said the fund will allow movie theaters and other businesses to pay their fixed cost while they are unable to generate revenue through normal operations. And so there you go. This bill has not been officially passed yet because it still needs to go to the House of Representatives. For those that are not in the United States, we have two different branches of government. For the legislative, from the legislative branch, we have two different houses of the legislative branch. So the Senate is the one that was basically, the Senate Democrats were the one dragging their feet, trying to put in a lot of their, the extra stuff. Then finally were able to come together and to an agreement and pass it. Almost overwhelming. I think it was a 96-0 vote. 4 senators are currently in quarantine and couldn't be there. And so the way that we work is that you have to be in person. And so they were not able to vote on it because of being in quarantine. It's expected to go to the House, where it could potentially find some resistance. I imagine that you're definitely going to have the freshman Congress people who are going crazy. They're called the squad, AOC type people that are going to drag their feet saying, no, we need to put in climate change stuff and all this Green New Deal garbage in there, or else we're not going to be happy, which is ridiculous. They unveiled their own plan, which was filled to the brim, which is stupidity. So hopefully Nancy Pelosi's current Speaker of the House actually does something and realizes, okay, no, industries and people need this now. There was just a report that came out that over 3 million people have filed for unemployment just in the past week alone. So that is a crazy number. It is the largest single number, I think, in history. There's a crazy chart that's available online where you see just like what it normally is, and then basically imagine that the levels down here, as it was the past week or so, or at least last week, it goes like incredibly high because it's just very unnatural for it to be that way. And so this bill would help to provide for money for people that are out of work. So not only does it help with unemployment benefits, but also too, there's a provision in there that would allow for people making a certain amount of money to get basically $1,200 as an individual, even more so as a family, $500 tax credits for children as well. But based on the way the bill was worded beforehand, it sounds like you'd be able to keep that money without having to pay it back if you make less than $100,000 a year or less than $150,000 as a family. Again, the wording of it might get changed in the House. It might not, and I'm sure we'll find out more about it as time goes on. But either way, it looks like the film industry, by the very least, with that one provision of that $500 billion, which is going to be made to help give loans to AMC, Regal, other major industries that are being hit by this at that time. And obviously, I think that there's a lot of different opinions we can have on this form of it, right? Obviously, I don't like handouts. I don't like the government getting involved and giving away future dollars that don't actually exist, giving out loans in this way. I think that it can be kind of difficult. But the fact that it is a loan and the industries will be expected to pay it back, I think is a good thing to be in the provision of the bill. But also, it is needed too. Like, this is a situation that's crazy. It's not the movie theater's fault that their business is dying, right? The states are the ones implementing these various shutdowns, these various, you can't, be groups of 10. This is coming from the federal government as well. And so these industries, in many cases, are actually choosing themselves to shut down voluntarily before being forced to in any capacity. And so I think that because they are indeed voluntarily choosing to shut down their business and therefore are losing out on money, that we should try to help them the best that we possibly can. And so that's just my own personal position on that. But it looks like because of this bill, if it does get passed by the House, that the movie industry, at least as far as AMC, Regal, etc., for the movie distributors, that they will be okay. I imagine that movie studios can probably get some of this as well, but to be honest, I think movie studios have so much more money and capital in their investments that they'll be less inclined, or rather less really needing of the money. But of course, I'm not an expert on business, and so they very well could be as well, because if their industry is being affected and they are choosing to not go ahead with certain projects and it's costing them money, well, then obviously I think that there should be something there as well. But obviously, I know that you guys are all going to have various opinions about that. But what are your thoughts about that? Starting off with that first bit of news, Call of the Wild, Downhill. Do you plan on seeing either of them? Again, Call of the Wild looked okay until you saw the CGI dog. And I've heard from a lot of people saying it's actually a really good movie, just the CGI dog. And so for me, I'm like, yeah, well, that's the reason why I really don't want to see it. And what are your thoughts overall? I know that this is not really a political channel, specifically, or anything to that effect. And so talking about legislation is a little bit of odd for me, but there really isn't a whole lot to talk about. And this does indeed have a lot to do with the movie industry, with the movie companies and especially movie theaters being able to get some of that money on loan from the United States government, which of course means from the taxpayer dollar, to try and help them out, but also we as taxpayers will be able to get some of that money to help us through this process as well. And my thoughts and prayers go out to anyone who watches these videos who is an hourly employee who's been affected. Again, 3 million people or so, again, in the past week alone, have asked for and have basically joined unemployment or have filed for unemployment. So it's a very, very dangerous time. Lord knows most of those people are hourly employees who've been laid off or have either been laid off or just can't go to work and are in this kind of limbo, and they're not getting cash that they need to pay off their bills. And so it's a very difficult time for our country. It's a very difficult time for our world, and hopefully we're able to get through this pretty quickly. But I know that this, at the very least, will help. May not solve everything, might not be the best thing out there, but hey, you know what? Something is better than nothing is what I normally say. But what are your thoughts about this? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please smash that like button, hit the bell notification if you want to be notified when videos go live. There's over, 20,000 subscribers here. Barely any of you seem to watch the video. So if you're not getting notified about them, or others that are not getting notified about them, please share this as well. It really does help me. Even if you can't be one of the persons that is a Patreon Subscribe Star member that donates, even if you just share the video, that could be tremendously helpful to me, because it's also hurting people on YouTube too, because not only is there less content really to cover, because if you talk about this term and you use this term, you're almost instantly demonetized, but also being a movie blog, talking about movie news and movie industry news and box office news, when there's nothing there to talk about, it can be tough on us as well. So anything you can do, even if it's sharing a video, would be greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless. And now to give a special shout out to my March Patreon and Subscribe Star members: animation commentator Brian P, Dion, David Brobrizik, Divex, Elizabeth M, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, Hail Father, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, the Honker Chunker Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jeffrey Toon, JJ Jonathan Jerembeck, Kenneth Camiel, Lady T, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, Orange Hat Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Perpetual Punster, Riff Magos, Riff Racer Request, Rosetta Allen, Sir Lancelato, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, The DJD Show, and Tina B for Patreon, and my Subscribe Star peeps: Robert Revo, Larry, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, G2 Cool 99, Dark Star 57, Alex McCarthy, US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nebadan G. Adams, and ZK Man, and Mike Jackson. Thank you all so much for being my Patreon and Subscribe Star members for the month of March. You are all amazing people. Thank you so much for the support, and I hope that you are enjoying your perks. If you do not know the perks that you get, make sure you read again through all the perks that are listed, and also check your messages if you're over on Patreon, because if you are a $5 and up backer on Patreon, you get special access to giveaways over on the Discord. I send out messages with a link to join the Discord server. I will then hook you up over there, and you'll have access to some really cool giveaways. I give away 4Ks, Blu-rays, digital codes, try and give away at least a couple of big movies, 4K Blu-ray titles a month, and try to do at least 2 to 3 giveaways for when it comes to digital download codes. And I might try and do a little bit more this month as well, because I'm always trying to add extra stuff to it. And also, if you are a $10 or up backer, then you have access to a special podcast that I'm starting to do with John the Flick Pick. That's right, John Flickinger of the Flick Pick channel. We're having a lot of fun with the podcast, and so expect that every couple weeks. And of course, also any extra behind the scenes, extra footage, extra interviews, extra solo podcasts as well, you will also have access to. And my special $25 and up backers on Patreon Subscribe Star, you have access to all of those things that I've listed. You also get a t-shirt. That's right, I will send you a t-shirt for your first month. And of course, you can also be featured on the Chosen to Valhalla live stream once a month. You get to be featured on the Odin's Movie Blog channel. It's always usually on a Sunday around 12 p.m. Eastern time. You get to join some lovely peeps and have some really great discussion with all of the Chosen of Valhalla and me with the live audience. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.